Poachers have massacred 4 rhinos at a private game reserve outside Cape Town. The rhinos were found at the Inverdoorn Game Reserve last night. One of the 4 rhinos was a pregnant female. The carcasses were found by the anti-poaching unit as they conducted a patrol of the reserve. All 4 rhinos had been shot and dehorned. A 5th injured and traumatized rhino is currently missing, with search operations at the 10,000-hectare reserve still underway. For more on this tragic story, we're joined by Johan Van Schalkwyk. He's the Group Marketing and Trade Manager for Aquila Collection. Johan, thank you so much for your time. First, how did the poachers manage to evade the anti-poaching unit?
That's always a question that comes up, good morning, in situations like this. And it's we need to understand that the sophistication and the organized ability of these criminals that come with rhino poaching. I think that's the starting point. Secondly, teams are trained 24 hours to do their diligent patrols, their regular patrols. And to put this in perspective, maybe if we can visualize, you know, a soccer field or a rugby field is close to a hectare. Put 10,000 of them together and put a fence around it. That's a massive area to patrol. And these guys have sophistication, they've got information, and that's just unfortunate that from time to time a breach like this could happen.
Are private game reserves more susceptible to these poaching syndicates and the organized crime that's associated with them?
I'd say there's a general risk to these endangered species. The difference between the private sector and the private game lodges and that of the national parks is that the South African National Parks Board, they've got the support of the SANDF and other big government and state funds to support them. Where in the private sector, it's really a private initiative with donations, funds from tourism operations that keep these anti-poaching unit and conservation programs going. It's a costly exercise, it's expensive equipment, and that's just on the anti-poaching side. You know, that's not even incorporating veld regeneration and other conservation programs. So the cost of this is costly. It's very expensive to run private game lodges in South Africa, but we need to do that for the future preservation of these big 5 animals. And that's the main difference that we'd like to highlight, is that the private game reserves don't have the massive funding and support that the public sector with the government have.
Why is it in the best interest of government to help the private game reserves? A lot of people would say, hey, it's your private business, you handle what you need to handle.
The preservation of endangered species is for the entire human race. The extinction of animals is a terrible thing, and the conservation of animals and wildlife is important, not just to private game reserves, not just to government, but to humankind and the planet. To put this in perspective, you know, dinosaurs are extinct today, and if we continue at this rapid rate of killing rhinos, the only place our kids in future would be able to see a rhino would not be in a private game reserve, would not be in the Kruger National Park, but it would probably be a fiberglass statue somewhere in an amusement park. And that is why it is important for private and public sector to hold hands and curb this mass killing of these beautiful, beautiful animals.
Yeah, it's in everyone's interest, Johan. So let's look at the hunt for the perpetrators. Really, is there any hope of you getting a lead that'll point you in the right direction? What happens now?
Well, the investigation obviously started immediately, and we're thankful to all the senior South African police officials that already came to the scene at the point of contact, senior Cape Nature officials and other supporting wildlife services that were on scene. The owner, still German, and the company also instituted private and forensic investigations immediately. So we are now appealing to the public for information that they might have to help us. We've put together a 100,000 Rand reward for any information, and we'll keep this confidential, obviously, that would lead to the successful apprehension, arrest, and prosecution of these perpetrators, criminals. So that is the process at the moment. It's an ongoing situation, ongoing investigation, so I can't elaborate on any of the information at the moment, but senior police officials are on site, and it's an ongoing active scene.
Johan, there was a lull in poaching activity during the lockdown. Obviously, there wasn't much movement, and now those numbers are rising again. And it just seems like these criminals are getting more sophisticated and that their ties to organized crime.
Yes, we need to remember this is not opportunistic crime. We need to remember that this is organized crime and it's sophisticated. As you said, during lockdown, there was a considerable drop in these numbers and in these killings and in these breaches, and we can most probably assume that that would have been to the tight lockdown restrictions. You know, there was complete restrictive movement of people, so it was not that easy for them to move around and not be detected. As these restrictions were lifted over the last year, we have seen an increase. These were predominantly to the north of South Africa, so it is quite a shock to wake up to a situation like this in the Western Cape, most probably, 10 years after a previous incident.
Johan, thank you so much for your time, and we sincerely hope that there is some information that comes forward to help you catch the perpetrators of this horrific crime. Like you said, the conservation of rhinos is for everyone's benefit. Johan Van Schalkwyk, he's the Group Marketing and Trade Manager for Aquila Collection.